Just give you a little story. I was in the city of London. A brother I knew very well. He was one of these angry dawah faces. And he was about 6'6", and may Allah protect him and just give you a physical description. He was 6'6", and one eye was wandering. And he was in the street, and a little old lady, little Welsh lady, came up, and he was on his stall, and he says, "Do you know anything about Islam?" She said, "No." He said, "Accept Islam, otherwise the hellfire will be your abode." How many people think she took Shahada that day? How many people think she went away thinking, "I don't want to meet another Muslim"? I can't guarantee it, but I know she didn't take Shahada that day because I was there. And we had to go after her and make sure that we gave a different impression of Islam. We learned the lesson from Umar's entry to Islam that we need to be careful how we look towards people, how we deal with people, how we see people work. We have very little time left before the break, so I want to mention just one or two more stories, if you'll permit me, if there's time. I want to mention about the softness of Umar. We said about how fearsome he was as a person. But when he became Khalifa, and let me just mention one sentence on how he became Khalifa. Upon the death of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he appointed Umar al-Khattab as his Khalifa. And some of the other companions, they said, "Hold on, you're just appointing him from your own self. What will you say before Allah when you meet Allah?" He was in the state of fever, he was dying, he was about to meet his Maker. He said, "What will the other companions say? What will you say appointing Umar as the Khalifa?" He said, "I will appoint the best of them to lead them. I will stand before Allah and I will say, I appointed the best of them to lead them." And indeed he was the best of those companions that remained. So when he became Khalifa, from this fearsome man, he became a very, very caring, soft man. Not soft with the enemies of Islam, but soft with Islam. One time he was with one of the other companions, and he was guarding some of the Bayt-al-Mal late at night. He was with al-Rahman bin Auf, one of the other al-Mubasharun, and they were guarding, protecting, bodyguarding, security guarding some of the Bayt-al-Mal, some of the government, we call it the treasury, some of the treasury. When he was bodyguarding with Abdurrahman bin Auf, they heard a baby crying. So he went to the mother of the baby, because he kept hearing the baby crying over and over. And he said to the mother, "Treat your son good." Then he had the baby crying again, so he went back again, and he said the same thing. He said, treat your baby good. At the end of the night, the same night that they're guarding, he still hears the baby. The baby's been crying all night. He says, "Treat your baby good. Why is your baby crying so much?" He's concerned. This poor baby, all night hearing the baby crying. What's going on? Why is the baby crying so much? Now, just to give you some context, Umar had then initiated the very first social welfare state on earth. The first social security ever given anywhere on earth was in the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu as the Khalifa. He gave the welfare state. He gave every citizen of the Muslim Ummah a salary for being a citizen. It's like social security. But he said that it would be from the age of 2 upwards. No. He said it would be from the age of weaning upwards. While you're being breastfed, you're not getting a salary. Once you've been fed and you're off the breast milk, now you need money from the state to make sure you live properly. The state is expanding. She says, "Haven't you heard?" She doesn't know who he is. "Haven't you heard?" Umar said that he would give a salary to the children who are weaned, who are off the breast milk. And we're poor. So we want the money, so I'm trying to wean him early. Umar left crying. He sat down on the floor and he turned his head to Allah and tears streamed down his cheeks. He said, "How many children have died?" And he used the word died, exaggerating. Inshallah, you don't die from lack of breast milk, but meaning suffered. How many children have died, bracket suffered? How many children have suffered because of Allah? From that day onward, he gave out the order, every newborn child in this ummah will receive the money. Every newborn child in this ummah will receive the money. That's the soft same names. One night Talha sees Umar ibn Khattab going into this old lady's house. Then he sees her going into the old lady's house again, and he becomes curious. So Umar is going into this old lady's house, he becomes curious. So he says, I wonder what's going on. So he goes to the old lady's house, she's blind and she's crippled. And she says here, Talha says to the lady, this man, obviously he knows she doesn't know who he is because she's blind and she's crippled. This man coming into your house, what's going on? Is everything okay? The blind crippled lady says, oh, this young man, he comes and he brings me food and he brings me shopping. And he takes away the rubbish and the garbage and he cleans my house. What a wonderful man he is. Talha left crying, saying, how could I have anything other than the best of thoughts about Umar ibn Khattab? One last story and then we have to break. And this is relevant. This is very relevant to our time and place where we are in our ummah. When Umar was Khalifa, this is how we should be as leaders. Why is it relevant? Because now we see elections going on, we see our government, we see Pakistani government, we see Trump, we see all these leaders around the world. Leaders are on our news all the time. Let me tell you how a leader should be. A Roman emissary, a Roman delegation or a Persian delegation, there are two narrations, was sent to Medina. Why? Because this Muslim ummah under Umar was expanding and expanding and expanding. This is becoming an empire. They were interested in what's going on in Medina. So they send an ambassador, an emissary, go and see what's going on. He arrives in Medina and he says, where is the palace of your king? The Sahaba said, we don't have a king and he doesn't have a palace. Okay, what have you got? We have a Khalifa and his name is Umar. Where does he live? In this little house here. Where is he? Right now, some camels escaped from the treasury, from bi-l-Janna. He's gone looking for them. This brother, diplomat, is like that. Bear in mind, the Caesars of Rome and the Qasras of Persia, they lived in palaces with guards and swords and everything, gold. And here's this king, or they're knocking, this Khalifa, because you don't have a king, who's out chasing camels that escaped from bi-l-Janna. Where will I find him? He's in this valley over there looking for the camels. He goes, he finds the camels are tied up. Umar's tired because he's been chasing camels from the bi-l-Janna. The Khalifa of the Muslim Empire has been chasing camels. Put this in the context, I just said leaders. Doesn't matter which country you want to look at, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, UK, America, France, no matter which country on earth, which leader, which president, which prime minister goes and chases camels from bi-l-Janna when you have this entire empire under your control. He finds the camels and he finds Umar under a tree in the shade, fast asleep. Fast asleep. He looks around, there's no bodyguards. He looks around, there's no weapons. He looks around, there's no one else there. And he thinks to himself, our leaders have guards and walls and swords and arrows. And this man is just asleep under a tree with some camels. And then he said a line of poetry, which I don't want to ruin it by using my rubbish Arabic. I would rather give you the English translation. He said something amazing. And I leave you with this, and then we'll break it up. He said, oh Umar, you ruled and you were just. Thus you were safe and you slept. You ruled and you were just. Thus you were safe and you slept. Why? Because if you rule justice, nobody wants to hurt you. Our leaders today require bodyguards and armaments and whatnot. Why? Because they're not ruling with justice. We as individuals, we rule with justice. We're all parents, sisters, brothers, husbands, wives. We all have our own leadership roles in our lives. Let us be like Umar. You ruled and you were just. You were safe, so you slept.